Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser.
Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. The Office of the Madison County, Illinois County Clerk is responsible for all elections held within the county, maintains voter registration records, vital records including birth, death, and marriage certificates, preserves records regarding annexation and incorporation of local units of government, retains records of all county board actions, computes property tax rates, and collects delinquent property taxes. Debbie Ming Mendoza was appointed County Clerk December 3, 2012 to fill the vacancy left by the longtime County Clerk Mark Nida when he was elected Madison County Circuit Clerk. Prior to her appointment as the County Clerk, Ms. Ming Mendoza had served as Madison County Assessor for 17 years. Since becoming County Clerk, she was appointed to a State Board of Elections Advisory Board and was recently appointed to serve as the chairman of the Illinois County Clerk Association's Property Tax Manual Committee. On March 18th, Democrats nominated her as their county clerk candidate on the November 2014 ballot. Debbie Ming Mendoza, welcome to Conversation.
Thank you very much.
So you've had a pretty good career in Madison County elected politics.
I've been very fortunate with my career. I'm very lucky and enjoyed every moment of it.
Well, let's see, I've known some of the county clerks over the years. Evelyn Bowles was the first one that I knew. She was big shoes to fill there. And then there was some lady who was in between there, and then came Mark Nida, and now you. So really, there haven't been that many county clerks in the last 30, 40 years.
Actually, I was fortunate enough to start my career with Madison County government under Leila Hutz. So
she was the one that came before Evelyn.
Yes, I had the opportunity to work with Ms. Hutz, Ms. Bowles, Debbie Saltich, and Mark Nida.
Yes. So, and how did you wind up over at the assessor's office then?
Well, when I was lucky enough to see a posting for employment, I was right out of high school looking for a job, as many of my classmates were, and I filled out an application and was lucky enough to be chosen. And I went to work for the office at that time was the supervisor of assessments. And I started my career there in 1973.
And what does the assessor's office do, just so that people know?
Well, their responsibility is to maintain the equality, the fairness of assessments. Each township in Madison County, there are 24, have an assessor, an elected assessor or an appointed. And the responsibility of the county's assessor's office is to oversight, make sure that things are being handled properly, and if they have to intervene and conduct the assessment process on behalf of that jurisdiction, which we've had to do many times over the years.
Is that right?
Yes.
So then you were the assessor, and then Mark Nida, who had been the assessor for, I forget how many years, but a number of years.
The county clerk.
The county clerk.
Yes.
For a number of years. And then he moved up and became the circuit clerk. So he's over the courts.
Yes.
And then you got appointed. That process was a political appointment, right?
Yes, it was.
By the county board.
Yes, the Chairman Dunstan of the county board gave me the opportunity, and I stepped into that office hitting the ground running because there was an election in April of 2013. So I had just a few months, 3 months, to get up to speed, put the election on, which I believe we did very successfully. In that 127 days of my appointment, we sponsored an election. I went home every night with the election code as homework, studying, because I didn't want to have to rely on office staff, because ultimately the responsibility is all of mine, and I
Yes.
needed to understand the decisions that I was making. Not to say I didn't take advice from the experienced staff, but those decisions were mine, and I felt like I needed to be up to date with the election law, and I think I did a pretty darn good job.
We had a pretty good staff, and
Oh
you
my
have a pretty
gosh.
good staff still.
Oh my gosh, they are an amazing group of people, men and women, who have been there many years and whom I do rely on. You know, I'll run past, what do you think about this? How do you think this will play out? And they give me their opinion. They're not shy to give me their opinion, but ultimately the decisions were mine, and that's the reason I take this so seriously. And I do a lot of homework to make sure that I'm knowledgeable of the decisions and the responsibilities that I have on a daily basis.
Now, it seems your primary responsibility as county clerk is the elections. Is that how you see it?
That's the most visible responsibility of a county clerk.
But I read off at the beginning there that you have a long list of responsibilities as well.
Many responsibilities: vital records, voter registration, delinquent tax, the extension process of calculating the rates for taxing districts, assume name. If you want to open a business in Madison County, in the unincorporated portions of Madison County, you have to come to me to apply for your business license. And so we have lots of things going on that just aren't as visible as the election itself.
And how many employees do you have in your office?
There are 21.
That's it?
Yes.
21 people plus you
Yes.
do all this work.
Yes. You
That's-
come to the office, you'll see me sitting right out in the middle of all of them. And that's, I think it's important that the taxpayer, the voter, sees me out there. I'm waiting the counter, I'm assisting them as much as possible. And that was a lesson that I learned from Evelyn. She always told me, don't hide away. Let people see you. Let people know that you're responsible, because they always want to talk to the boss. So that's been my career philosophy from the very beginning.
I remember Evelyn's in her old office up on the second floor, and you walk in the door and she was the first person that you would see sitting right there.
I learned from her, and I hope that it is my practice of learning from her. I hope that I've served the county well.
So now you've, let's see, today is April the 15th, 2014. On March the 18th, less than a month ago, you had an election.
Yes.
How'd that go?
It went perfectly. And I'm not here to say that there weren't a few little bumps in the road, but it was something that my election judges were prepared for through the training that we went through. And I'm very proud of those 1,104 people that serve as election judges. But we did well. The canvas has been certified to the State Board of Elections, and we are done with the March 18th primary, and we are moving forward towards November's election. We have already started that process.
So how does that work? I mean, after the voters are done and they have cast their ballots, then what happens? I think you close at 7 o'clock. Is that right?
Voting is until 7 p.m. in
All
the
right.
evening.
So at 7:01, what happens then?
Once the election judge has notified the public that the polls are closing, they close the door of their polling location and they begin the process of tabulating results. They remove the ballots from the ballot bin. They compare the ballots to the applications that the voters have signed, and they run the results tapes. Everything balances. They bring their transfer case of ballots, voted ballots, and their results tape to a counting center, which I believe has been extremely beneficial in getting early vote returns out to the public. So we have voting center locations. The judges from each precinct are assigned a center to return their ballots to.
So this is not in your office in Edwardsville. These are throughout the county.
Correct. They
Okay.
are throughout the county, different locations. We make them geographically convenient for the precincts to come to. And at that time, there is a card, a memory card, that each precinct will return to me, and we catalog that card into our records book, and then we load that card and upload the data to the official count center in the office in Edwardsville, and then we in turn display those results to the public.
Now, these cards that you're uploading, is that uploading at the Edwardsville facility, or are they uploading from these remote centers across the net?
They are uploading from the remote count centers throughout the county.
Now, there are people, as you know, who are a little hanky about any kind of electronic machines or electronic voting. They think, and by hanky I mean they're very unsure as to whether or not those can be counted on to give an honest vote. What can you say right now to assure people that their votes using electronics are as secure as a paper ballot?
Early voting, and not only this past March primary, but in elections prior, since 2005, when early voting became law, we have been voting on what we call an e-slate. And it is an electronic device that the voter will go to and vote their specific ballot. After they've checked in with the election judges, they're given a code, and they key that code into their electronic device, and they vote their ballot. I agree that a lot of people, many people, think that once they've walked away from there and they've hit that cast ballot button, that I automatically know how they voted, and that is absolutely not the case. There are so many stop provisions in that software that I cannot. Now, what I can do is I can tabulate how many people have voted that day, and I have records available to me that tell me who voted on that day. But the process and the software will not allow me to tabulate any voting results until after 7 p.m. on election night.
So it's all hidden away, even from you.
Absolutely it is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, moving forward in time to the day of the election, again, I've heard from people who say that any kind of transmission via wires or via the internet of data is subject to corruption. How do you reassure people that that's not the case, that the count that you come up with and certify at the end of the process is in fact the real count?
Not only am I cognizant of their concerns, I'm concerned that I get the accurate votes from the count center to be uploaded to Edwardsville so that I can put the results out to the public. But after the election is over, I have to go through a canvass to show that the results that I reported on election night hold true, and that's by law. That's not something that I do on my own.
Describe what the word canvass means.
Canvass is actually just auditing the results of election day.
So you just go back over everything.
Absolutely.
And you look in detail at all the numbers, all the things that the voters did.
Yes, sir. And not only am I doing that, the State Board of Elections will certify a survey audit to the county clerk saying, we want you to pull these specific precincts, which they had determined at random, and report the results to us in comparison to what you reported on election day. So not only am I auditing myself, the State Board of Elections is auditing Madison County to confirm the accuracy of the results as well.
Mm-hmm. And in no case can you or anybody tell who the voter voted for?
Absolutely not. I mean, I protect the sanctity of that voting. It's so important to that voter to feel that they are privately voting their conscience, and it's my job to make sure that that's not interfered with in any way.
you know, I'm not even sure why people feel the way that they do. Of course, they're entitled to their feelings. Has anybody ever come to you and said, well, I feel it because, and they explain to you why they think that the system is not secure? And I'll tell you, before you answer that, I'm going to tell you an example. I actually saw, this is over in St. Louis County, a woman was standing out front of a polling place, handing out papers saying, don't use the touch screen machines over there in this voting place because they're wired right into the George Bush headquarters, or something to that effect. Now, I knew that she was mistaken about that, but she believed it. And many of the people who came to vote that day believed it enough where more paper ballots were issued than normal. So now, again, how do people tell you, or what do people tell you that is even at all convincing to you?
Well, they're passionate about that. And there's no amount of talking that I can do to that person standing in front of me to reassure them, once they've had their mind made up, that there is a corruption in me knowing or candidates knowing ahead of time of how they voted. Mm-hmm. And because of that concern, and it's not just one or two people, it's many people that I've heard from in the last 2 elections that I've been responsible for. The county has allowed me, through grant funding by the state of Illinois, to purchase a new early voting system, which we will move away from the e-slates. We will get away from the computer voting process and go to a paper ballot. It's called Ballot on Demand. Now, I don't know that you or your viewers are aware, but early voting and election day voting are currently on 2 different platforms, 2 different software vendors. And so election night, there is always that nail-biting period that I go through. Will these 2 softwares actually talk to each other and merge? Yeah. So right now, we are, for the November election, very excited about going to an equal platform with Election Day and early voting. If you come to vote early in late October, right before the November election, you will be given a paper ballot specific to you, and you can go anywhere in our early voting centers and get that specific ballot for you. Go to a voting booth and vote privately, just like you would on election day. Circle in the candidates, shade in that candidate that you wish to cast your vote, and you yourself will put it into the tabulator. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that some of the conspiracy theories will be alleviated. I am also hoping that voters will feel more comfortable coming and voting early. What a wonderful opportunity it is. You get 12 days to vote, not including election day. So there really is no excuse for people not to come and vote. But when's the cutoff for this early voting? Is it the day before the election, or are there a couple of days in between? Well, actually, it's the Saturday before the election. But grace period voting and absentee voting, you can still come to me until the day before. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that people will be more encouraged. They won't need to be intimidated by the machine. With our voting, it wasn't a touch screen, it was a dial down till you hit the shaded area of the candidate. So I'm hoping that I am alleviating that aspect. And important to me, as being accountable to the taxpayer, it's going to cost Madison County 50% less in annual maintenance fees going to a paper ballot than the electronic. So I'm hoping that I am demonstrating fiscal responsibility, plus trying to reassure voters of the sanctity of that voting ballot. Now, let's switch up and go to a couple other of your responsibilities. You're the clerk to the county board also. I am. What are your functions there? I am the minute taker. I maintain all the minutes for all the committees related to the county board.
You personally or an employee of yours?
Not me personally, but I have employees. Now, for the county board meetings on the third Wednesday of each month, I am there to oversee the minutes and the voting results on different resolutions by committee. I take care of all the correspondence on behalf of the county board. I do all of their reporting. If any reports are required to be filed with the state, I take care of that on their behalf also.
Mm-hmm. And any problems with that?
No, sir. No, sir. We haven't had
Runs
any
like
problems.
a machine.
It
Like-
runs just a well-oiled machine.
Right. And then now you also have responsibility for what's called vital statistics, vital records. Just describe what that means to the people.
If you're looking to get married in Madison County, you need to come to me to apply for the license, and I will assist you in that. We're very excited when people come in to get married because they're so happy, and we are just so happy to keep that momentum going for them. But also, if you need to get a copy of your birth certificate or a copy of a death certificate for insurance purposes when a loved one has passed away, I maintain all of those records also.
Now, can I come and get a birth certificate or a death certificate on anybody?
You can come and get a death certificate, but you cannot come and get a birth certificate unless the record is for yourself or for your child.
What about my grandkid?
No. The only way that you would be allowed as a grandparent to get a copy, a certified copy of a birth certificate, is if you are their legal guardian. I protect that as vigorously as I do voting and voter registration.
Now that's a change from years and years ago when anybody could come in and get any of these records. What's been the reason for the changes?
I think the reason is more protection of personal privacies, and we live in a different society right now where there's a lot of mean people out there who may take your birth record information and try to steal your identity. And so for that reason, I protect those records fiercely. I mean, I've upset a many grandparent.
Really? They
Yes.
come in, hey, it's my grandkid, my baby.
I know, and I try very hard to explain to them the importance of why I need either a notarized letter from the parent saying that you as the grandparent are coming in. I just have to be sure whom I'm giving those records to.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, you're also, you handle, what is it, you collect delinquent taxes?
We do. It's not a pleasant job, but it is a
What
responsibility.
happened to the treasurer?
Well, the treasurer collects during collection periods.
Right.
But once the tax sale has taken place and those bills have been sold, the taxpayer who has been notified by the buyer that I've bought your tax bill, you need to pay me, they come to me to redeem their taxes, and then it's my responsibility to disperse that money to the buyer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now that Madison County did have some difficulties there with tax sales and tax buying, but that's been cleared up now?
Absolutely, absolutely. That was before. A lot of that was before I became county clerk, but I think Mr. Prinzler and I work well together in our statutory requirements, and we're both trying to serve the taxpayer to the best of our abilities.
So here in the last 5 minutes, I often offer to people, I say, okay, if we haven't talked about something that you want to talk about, now's the time for you to do that. Is there anything we haven't covered that you'd like to tell the public?
Well, one of the responsibilities is voter registration. We didn't get an opportunity really to talk about
Go
voter
ahead.
registration. I currently have 176,000 people that are registered in Madison County, and in the next month, the law requires that I purge that file to cancel voters who have not, or make voters inactive that have not voted in the last 2 federal elections. So that is a stopgap measure to make sure that people aren't voting under a different identity. Like I come in and try to vote as Lee Presser. I'm maintaining the file as by statute saying Lee hasn't voted in 2 federal elections, you need to make him inactive.
Now you used the word purge and then you changed and said inactive. Are you actually purging, or are they in a separate file? And what if I show up on election day having not voted in 2 federal elections, but here's a 3rd one, and I just show up to vote? What happens to me?
My very well-trained election judges will contact me at the office, and we will confirm that, and then we'll open the file up and tell the judge you need to have them sign a specific affidavit, but that voter will get to vote. But when I talk about purging,
Is that a provisional vote, or is that?
It's not a provisional.
Okay, it's a regular vote.
It's a regular ballot that my judges will allow them, our judges. I sort of take it personally. Those folks are very special to me. But our election judges will have the voters sign the appropriate paperwork. I get that back election night, and the very next day we start reconciling the record.
Now, as this person who hasn't voted in 2 federal elections, then I show up, what do I have to bring with me in order to be allowed to vote?
Well, if I need for you to show me some kind of current address. Election day, we're not allowed to ask for a photo ID. But if you're in a situation to where your residency is being questioned, I need for you to at least show me what your current address is so that we can check that against the permanent record.
Like a utility bill or something like that?
Something that shows your permanent address and that you haven't moved.
Now, I move into Madison County. I've never lived there before. I've moved into Madison County. I go to register to vote. What do I need to bring you then?
You need to bring me 2 forms of identification with your current address in which you're registering must be on that.
Photo ID?
Photo IDs are nice, but it's not necessary. I just need 2 forms of identification.
There's of course controversy over the idea of photo ID. What is the state of Illinois' feeling about this up at Springfield?
Photo ID is absolutely required through the early voting process. Because you're not voting in your precinct where you live, you may live in Highland, but you are in Godfrey on some personal business and you decide you would like to vote
At
the Godfrey station. The judges need to confirm that you are Lee Presser, which requires a photo ID. Now, election day is a different process and the law speaks differently, and a photo ID is not required.
Well, we're just about, we have a few extra seconds here, but if I ask you another question, I know we're going to run out of time. I'm going to just tell you a quick story that I saw back in, I think it was in 2003, on CNN. I saw this in Iraq, and they were holding their very first election there. And I noticed that the judges actually had the voter rolls, and they actually had pictures of the voters on those things, so that they just look up. Yes, that's him. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Very much
Thank
appreciated.
you.
I've been speaking with Debbie Ming Mendoza. She is the County Clerk of Madison County, Illinois. You probably know her if you've registered to vote or gotten a marriage license there. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Oh, and look for us on YouTube as well. Goodbye.